Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I do hope this went out to all channels. We're using a new platform. So if there are any issues, I apologize, and we will re-record. Uh, Today, we have a really hot topic. This is something that we've been seeing in our case management a lot lately. And as we are seeing more and more CDCs that are going through supplanting, hiring freezes, shorter hours, these locations that previously were able to serve so many families via the CDC are now needing to utilize MCCYN, and they're not finding it as an option when they log in to apply. Which brings us to today's topic, using military fee assistance, or MCCYN, at a non-enabled location. Joining us here today is Sabrina Dalton. Sabrina, you want to do a little introduction?
Sure. I am Sabrina Dalton. I've been with OCCP since December and was part of the case management team. And then now I'm moving into a new position to help Kayla and help run the organization. So I've worked with a lot of families through this, and this MCCYN non-availability is coming up like weekly now. So it seemed like the right time to explore this and inform families a little bit more.
Yeah, and cannot harp on this enough. It is coming up more and more and
Yes.
more. And so the ability to be able to, of course, still in the case management, personalized one-on-one support, but also for those who do want to handle it on your own, this video will give you an idea of how to navigate that, what that actually looks like. And I'm Kayla Corbett. I'm the founder of Operation Childcare Project. And the point of these Ask Me Anythings, feel free to go ahead and drop any questions as we're talking. We will get to them as they go, that you have about this. That is the entire point of this, is so you can ask questions live. Now, if you are not watching this live, which we know most of you do not, that is okay, because as always, everything will be available on our website afterwards. So let's get started. So I will take this one. So what is all of this? So a non-enabled installation is when your installation command has determined that there is adequate space within DoD operated care, generally a CDC, sometimes also FCCs. And therefore, the fee assistance is not necessary, it's not required. And so it becomes a non-enabled installation. And when this happens, if you still want access to fee assistance, you have to request an exception to policy, or an ETP. And we're going to kind of walk you through what this looks like. In our case management currently, we help families with this in what we call our accountability process. But that does not mean that you cannot do it without us. You know, families have done it without us. They've done it for years. They do it every month. We just make the process a lot smoother for you, answer all of those questions, really walk alongside of you as part of this. The next piece that I want to talk about is military fee assistance. So the DoD owned and sometimes operated, depending on your branch, fee assistance program is for civilian licensed care. So when you hear us talk about military fee assistance, we're talking about the subsidized cost of off installation care at regular centers. So think your Goddards, your Primroses, your La Petites. It has sometimes been referred to as MCCYN, MCCYN Plus, a similar program. Or we still are hearing a lot of families and providers calling it childcare aware. And just as a reminder from our earlier Ask Me Anything on who funds this, childcare aware is just a third-party administrator who processes paperwork for some of the branches. It's not their program. They don't make decisions. They don't make policy. They can't grant your exception to policy. So when we are referring to this, let's try to stick with military fee assistance. And the last piece here is militarychildcare.com. So this is where all families must start and apply for DoD operated facilities. So your CDC or FCC, or military fee assistance, MCCYN. Again, we see a lot of families who are going to Child Care Aware of America's website to apply because they do think that it is their program. You cannot apply from their website. That's not how you get started in the process. So let's always start at militarychildcare.com when you are looking for any DoD operated care. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of backdrop as we move into the next section. Sabrina, why don't you take this one?
Yeah. So like Kayla has said a couple times, and I said earlier, like families are coming in all the time saying like, I was supplanted, or, am moving, I'm PCSing, and the date of care, or the anticipated placement time, that APT thing, when you are in militarychildcare.com, is like 6 months from the time I actually need it. And what can I do? So what's happening right now is there are families that are in the CDC that are being supplanted. So basically, like, I can explain it in a long way, or the short way I can just say is they're getting kicked out. They're just not able to be in the CDC anymore. And that can be because of staffing things, that can be, reductions of hours, that can be um your prioritization is they're reprioritizing who's in the CDC, who's not. And so you're just out of getting put out of the CDC. And then second, there's these like frozen wait lists, or that anticipated placement time just keeps moving. And so you'll apply and it says your anticipated placement time is 1 to 2 months. And then in 1 to 2 months you go in and it's like, oh, it's 1 to 2 months, and or 3 to 4 months, or it's just kind of like going along and you're not making any progress. MCCYN is available in all 50 states, but families are moving and they're not seeing it as an option, and they're getting truthfully frustrated and a little worried because it's not, they know they need to get their child into care. A lot of families need this so that a spouse can be working, a spouse can be in school, or you're a single service member. You need childcare in order to do what your job is. And so this is getting a little frantic because they want to have their child in care. They're not seeing MCCYN as an option. And maybe at their previous installation, they had their kid in a civilian center. They know what to look for. It's not there. It is confusing. Um, and then this exception to policy thing. So basically, you should be like not triggered, but prompted if you start asking about this non availability. Your program manager, or you should get started in the process to be able to get this exception to policy. And that process is just also not happening. So families are just kind of getting in this like cycle of not being able to access the care that the fee assistance and the care that they know that they need and that they're looking for, and it's just getting confusing, and all of that is just being exacerbated by the supplanting, and we're going into peak PCS cycle.
Yeah, doom loop is what I've
Yes.
they just keep getting circled around this doom loop.
Yes.
So this is what it looks like. If you're wondering, is this installation enabled? Is it not enabled? So you would find this out by getting into your militarychildcare.com portal first. So go ahead and sign in. You select your child. You select the installation that you anticipate needing care at. So if you haven't PCSed yet, if you're still looking at maybe 1 or 2 installations, you don't know yet. We know a lot of Air Force families, especially, are currently on hold from any PCSing. You can still go ahead and take a look to see, is this enabled or is it not? When you put in the installation, if this pops up after you select full-time care, it is an enabled installation, which means you can check this little tiny box here and proceed with getting on that wait list. If you are at a non-enabled installation, then nothing will come up except for whatever the DoD operated care is. And so here, what I want you to do is note the anticipated placement time. So this was for an infant, and the anticipated placement time is possible after a child becomes a preschooler. And so you're going to need this information for your exception to policy. So take a look at what that looks like before you move forward in the next steps. So what do you do when you need an exception to policy? This is something that we do, again, in our case management with our accountability team. You are going to be emailing your request for MCCYN to the right stakeholders. And I cannot stress this enough. It has to be the right people, and you need to be sure you're using the right verbiage. I'm going to show you that in a second. You need to put this in writing. So a lot of families will call. If childcare is your third-party administrator, they might call them and say, hey, I need help doing this. We want this in writing. This has to be in writing. It creates accountability and transparency. And in your email request, you need to include all of this information. The date you attempted to apply for childcare. So within your militarychildcare.com, when were you attempting to apply before you got to where you couldn't select it? The date you need care, your date of care needed, your anticipated placement time. So in this email, I would say, my child is 2 months old. The anticipated placement time is after my child becomes a preschooler. Therefore, the CDC will not work for my family. Which licensed center you have found availability at. So if you have not already found a center, we do have a starting the center search guide on our website under the education section. That'll kind of get you started on how to look for that. But you're going to want to reference which center you did find availability at. They must be licensed. And the impact if you cannot access fee assistance. And so when we're talking about impact, it doesn't need to be just financial. I mean, it is fee assistance, right? But we also want to think outside of that. We want to think about spousal employment. How does this impact your employment? How does it impact your mental health if you're not able to access this? How does it impact your education? How does it impact your mission readiness? There are all aspects of quality of life can be included when you talk about the impact aspect of what a lack of access to this means. And so here are stakeholders. This is a generic list of stakeholders. We did go ahead and include some program administrator pieces on here. If you do not have your service branch manager, we will be sure that we add that as part of our, when we post this up on our website, we'll include those emails. They have been added in previous presentations, but I do believe in putting everything in the same place. So the goal when you send this email is more, not less. You want to keep all the stakeholders on the email thread for continuity and so they can step in if needed. So we want your leadership. And I say this in our groups, it doesn't need to be your installation commander. You don't have to go all the way up. It can be your SHIRT, your first sergeant, whatever it might be. Just someone in your leadership so they're aware. Your spouse, if applicable, your service branch manager, I'll get those listed out by branch. Your program administrator. So if you're a Navy or Coast Guard, it's going to be this Navy email. If you're every other branch, it's going to be Child Care Wherever America. They are the ones who process that paperwork. Your provider. So maybe your director, the assistant, someone at your childcare center that you're trying to enroll in, they should be there. Militarychildcare.com. They're going to have to enable that option for you on militarychildcare.com when you are approved. So they need to be included in here as well. And then you don't have to, but we do encourage you to include support. This is the email address that we give families to use specifically for this purpose. We will never respond in your email thread. When we see that come in, we're simply there in case you get stuck. We have eyes on already, and we already know where you are in the process. So we're able to jump in a lot faster than if you had to get us up to speed from the beginning. So let's move over to our frequently asked questions, because I don't see any questions yet in the chat, which is fine. Again, most of you watch this later. So if you do have questions after this is posted, you can still drop those in the comments. We do go back through and respond to them afterwards. I will take the first few here because they are a little nuanced. These are questions that we've been getting in our case management a lot in some of my presentations previously. The first is, do you have to stay on the wait list for the CDC? So the short answer is no. The long answer is it depends. You do not have to stay on a wait list for the CDC if the CDC is not going to fit your needs. So when you look back at that anticipated placement time of a preschooler, when my child is 2 months old, no, you do not need to stay on that wait list. That doesn't make any sense. You attempted, you know what your anticipated placement time is. You do need to join a wait list if you are at a non-enabled installation when you submit your original request. After that, you can drop it. If you're at an enabled installation, so if MCCYN shows up for you when you go to submit, you don't need to worry about signing up for the CDC at all. You no longer have to do both. The next one, do I need a statement of non-availability? This only still applies to Army. Everyone else has eliminated this requirement. Even Army does not need it if you are at an MCCYN enabled location. So if MCCYN shows up for you, when you go to submit the request, you do not need the statement of non-availability anymore. That's no longer a requirement. And if it is not an MCCYN enabled location, but you live 15 miles or more than 15 minutes away from the installation, you still don't need it. So it's really only if you are at a non-enabled location and you live within a couple of minutes of the installation that you would still need that signed off that there is not any availability at your installation. And I'll take this one. Sabrina, do you want to take the rest?
Yeah.
All right. So what type of center qualifies? The baseline that you're searching for here is licensed. So is this center licensed? There are exceptions to policy that can be made for everything except for that. That is the only one that we cannot navigate around. We are looking for ideally a center who is nationally accredited. And again, this will be in our starting your childcare search list on under the education section of our website. You're looking for one that is nationally accredited. And if a nationally accredited center is not available, then you're looking for one that is state quality rated. Now, some of you do live in the middle of nowhere. I'm looking at you, recruiters. And you may not have nationally accredited or state quality rated care around you. In that case, you are looking at a baseline of, is it licensed? That is where you want to start that search. All right, Sabrina, why don't you take over for the last three here?
Sure. All right. Where can I find a list of non-enabled installations? The short answer is that doesn't exist. The longer answer is we at OCCP are trying to track this. We are every time we find out about a installation that's not enabled, and we find out from our case management families coming in saying, I, I'm moving to this place and I don't want to, I can't go to the CDC for XY reason. I don't know what to do. And we go and look, and sure enough, they're not enabled. So there is no list. We are trying to track it, but you can figure it out by going into MCC.com, like Caroline's my daughter, and not her, like Kayla said. And look it up, and you can figure out which ones are not enabled. You just have to do it one at a time. Who do I ask to make my installation enabled? So in a previous AMA called Who Funds This? We went into that, but the short answer is it's up to the base commander to decide which installation is enabled and which is not. So that is a determination they make for a variety of factors. And then the last question, why wouldn't all installations be enabled? MCCYN is advertised as being available everywhere. That's true. But if the base commander has decided that the CDC can fit the needs of the military members assigned there, and there's adequate space and everything's good, they will make MCCYN non-enabled for the installation. Every time a family comes into case management and they're at an MCCYN non-enabled installation, I tell them you are entitled to this program. It's just going to take hoops for you to jump through. And that is the unfortunate part, that it's a process, but it can be done, and we are doing this all the time. So
yeah, thank you. And then Sabrina, why don't you take this one as well?
Yeah. So everyone is welcome into case management if you're military affiliated. So if you need help drafting that exception to policy, so Kayla very quickly went through our accountability process. It's not necessarily longer than that, but if you have questions and you need an explainer refresher, or if you have questions on if you even need an exception to policy, please come into case management, fill out the intake form. We're happy to answer those questions. If you're basically in the doom loop, you've submitted the email and you didn't hear back for any reason, you've asked questions, you're not making progress, come on in. We're happy to help. Like Kayla said, if for this non-enabled thing, you need to have a center that has availability. Sometimes even under figuring out all the centers, maybe you're in DC and there's like 2 million centers that are participating in fee assistance, but you don't know where to start. It's kind of overwhelming. If you need help building out that center search, come into case management. That's something that we do for families, just to help you kind of narrow down and focus in on maybe a smaller geographic radius, or maybe you have like specific hours. We can help kind of filter everything down, put it in a nice Excel sheet for you, so that instead of 600 options, you have 16, and you can call through, find availability. This isn't an issue in DC, but it was a solid example. And then basically, if you don't want to go this process alone, families, Kayla said, families are successful without OCCP's support. There are families out there that are navigating all these fee assistant nuance situations all the time by themselves, and they're doing it well. But if you are not that kind of person, or you feel like you have questions, you need support, you just want to do this with a buddy, we're happy to be your buddy. You just fill out the intake form, and then our case management team can walk you through this MCCYN process. We also help with CCYH. I mean, we do like run the full gamut. We are here to help whatever your needs are. So please don't hesitate to come in.
Absolutely. With full suite of options.
Yes.
Right? So just as an important note, things are changing very rapidly. I don't know if I've made it more than 48 hours without a memo coming into my inbox or through a text message, without an installation changing, something related to their CDCs, FCCs. Things are changing quickly. And so if you do want the latest information, please sign up for our newsletter. Historically, we've only done a monthly newsletter, but given how rapidly things are scaling, we're going to start doing smaller updates throughout the weeks, just so that everyone has all the information that they need to make these decisions. And so when this is posted, you can sign up on our website in the meantime, occproject.org. But when this slide deck gets posted, this will be clickable. Okay. Well, this was really great. Sabrina, do you have any additional questions or thoughts maybe that have come up in case management? You spend a lot of time in it.
No, I would just reassure families. I think that it's okay to be confused by this. Like a lot of times it's families coming from a place where MCCYN was an option and it was working really well for their family and meeting their needs. And they're just like, you can feel the anxiety via email. PCSing comes with like a lot of life change and a lot of stressors. And I mean, we all know that, but this is a piece that I think families are hoping is just going to fall right back into place, that it was predictable and they knew what to do for this process. And so they're ready to do it again. And then when they like see that MCCYN is not there, it's just another stressor. And so, it's okay that you're confused. This is a little bit of a confusing process, but you don't have to navigate it alone if you are just overwhelmed. So I don't know how many times I can say come into case management, but like please fill out the intake form and let us help you, because this is a piece that we haven't cracked the code on, but we're solving and we're capable of helping with. So
yeah, I agree. I also say come into case management a lot. And I think some people think that case management is going to require this heavy lift from them, and we make it as minimal as possible. It's actually designed to do the opposite. We are there to exhaust your options so that you don't have to exhaust yourself in trying to get through all of those options. So we call it case management. It is akin to expert peer support in navigating this, because we are we are military families ourselves.
For sure.
So I know, again, most of you do not watch this live. I've seen people bop in and out as we've gone, and you watch it after the fact, which I'm very grateful for. Please feel free to drop any questions that you come across while you're watching this after the fact into whatever modality it goes on. It'll be on our YouTube. It will be on our LinkedIn and on Facebook for viewing. We'll also go ahead and load it to our website. You're also able to always reach out to our email inbox for help, info@occproject.org. That goes to the most amount of people in the organization. So I will not repeat that if you're a family coming, you can. We've said it.
It's there. Yeah.
It's there. It's there for you. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We